Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is KRWG Public Media, TV, radio, online. News that matters. Now, across the Mesilla Valley and the borderland, the stories that shape our community. From the KRWG Broadcast Center at New Mexico State University, this is Newsmakers.
Up front this week, student recruitment and retention are job one for many of our country's schools. And sometimes those efforts reach beyond the United States. As Michael Hernandez reports, New Mexico State University is reaching out to prospective students from Mexico.
Students from Mexico visited New Mexico State University during the third annual Dia de Scuba recruiting event to tour the campus, learn more about the school's programs, and meet with teachers and student ambassadors. 17-year-old Melissa Rivero is a senior at Instituto La Salle in Chihuahua. Rivero says she first heard about NMSU at her high school's college fair 2 years ago, and now it's her top choice. Rivero says she plans to study physics or astronomy once she enrolls.
Since I was like 10 years old, astronomy was one of my biggest interests. The stars, only for looking up in the sky, it was like amazing because I was like the only one in my class is interested in that kind of stuff because it's not that common, you know? So I want to achieve it, to make my dreams come true. Well, right now I want to be a teacher. So being a teacher in physics or astronomy is like my biggest dream because I like learning from my teacher, so I want to become one.
Plenty of parents got involved with learning about their children's future school, like Rogelio Monreal from Ciudad Juarez. Monreal and his family attended for his son, who's interested in studying aerospace engineering. Monreal says along with the school's small student-to-faculty ratio, the diversity of students at NMSU compared to traditional colleges in Mexico is a plus.
Because of my work experience, I've noticed that, I've been able to work with people from across the world. Either by phone or physically, face-to-face. So that's something that to me, it came after I was working. So it was a slower process in understanding that diversity and working with people across the world. And in MSU, I think he's going to be able to get that firsthand when he's studying. So by the time he comes to work or gets a job, that's going to be second nature to him, working with people from across the world, different cultures.
Hispanics make up 56% of NMSU's student population, according to fall 2018 enrollment data, and the university is working to increase those numbers among its international students. Of the nearly 900 international students enrolled in the fall semester, 130 are from Mexico. Rod McSherry, interim associate provost for international and border programs, says some challenges the university has in attracting students from Mexico include getting immigrant visas and related paperwork approved, as well as the cost of tuition. To ease finances, McSherry says NMSU offers a special tuition rate for Mexican citizens.
We call it the Scuba Scholarship, and what that is Mexican citizens who meet our admissions requirements can come to school here and pay instead of twice the amount of what a New Mexico resident would pay, they only pay 1.5 times what the New Mexico resident pays. So we do find some way to offer an incentive to come here, which makes us on par with some of the Mexican universities. So that's one thing we've done financially.
Tuition through the Descubre program costs full-time undergraduate students from Mexico about $4,700 per 15-credit semester, while full-time graduate students pay about $4,000 per 12-credit semester. While the event focused mainly on incoming freshmen, college transfer students also took part in the day's activities. Universidad Autónoma de Chihuahua Jr. Xavier Franco is looking to finish his bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering at NMSU through a joint program between the schools. Franco and other Mexican students at the open house say having a degree from the U.S. is more prestigious than one from Mexico. He recommends incoming freshmen to seriously consider what they want to study.
I know it's kind of hard at the time to come up with a decision since there's a lot of things you can study or explore. But I think it's you got to be honest with yourself at the time because it's a very important decision for you, and it's got to be something you really enjoy or love doing, because you're mostly going to spend the rest of your life doing one of those things. So my recommendation would be to do something because you like it, not because, you know, it's high paying or because it sounds cool or whatever. You know, it has to be a genuine passion for what you're doing.
From tariffs to an immigration policy separating families at the border to calls for a border wall, U.S.-Mexico relations have been strained under the Trump administration. Regardless of politics, McSherry says events like Dia de Scubre aim to make Mexican students feel welcome.
That's exactly one of the reasons why we do Dia de Scubre, is to show them that here in the borderlands and here at NMSU, regardless of what they might be hearing on TV or what they might be reading in the press, when they come here and they feel the welcome and they feel that there's people just like them here, that what the rhetoric they're hearing and the kind of exaggerated political discussion really doesn't apply to here. But so we're doing our best to show who we are and present our case for people coming here from all over the world, including Mexico.
By hosting open houses like Dia de Scubre, NMSU officials say they hope Mexican students discover how the school can help broaden their horizons. For KRWG Public Media, I'm Michael Hernandez.
Hello and welcome to In Focus. I'm Anthony Moreno. Our guest today is here to update us on a new program that will be offered by WNMU School of Nursing. It's a fully online master's degree program and the only one in the state that has a focus on rural frontier health. Please welcome Dr. Jon Scarbrough, Associate Dean of Nursing at WNMU. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the university and our new program.
Well, we're excited to have you here to talk about this program. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. When is it beginning and what exactly will it entail?
Well, we are anticipating admitting our first cohort in the fall of 2019, the fall semester. The program is, as you said, completely online. Full-time students can complete it in 4 to 5 semesters, kind of depends on how aggressively they want to go after it. The majority of our students we do find are working nurses, so it's not so common for people to go full-time. The majority would go full-time. And what they can look forward to is learning a lot about providing nursing health care in a rural setting. Rural/frontier is the federal designation for it.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because with that designation, I'd kind of like to hear how that makes this program so unique with that designation.
Well, the majority of nursing schools across the United States educate nurses to become novice generalists, just to enter, and you could pretty much go anywhere, urban, rural, whatever type of community. This is a master's degree, so it's a one step up, a little more advanced, and it does focus on some of the issues that we encounter in rural areas. One example might be if you're a nurse and you're in Albuquerque or Las Cruces and the doctor's upstairs and you're in the hospital says you need a CT scan, they call down to the CT scan lab and you go right down. If you're in Silver City, or perhaps not Silver City, but most of the state is rural, to get a CAT scan, you're talking a 2 or 3 hour drive and setting that up. So as a nurse, what can you do to kind of mitigate the situation between now and then, and how would you treat someone differently? Particularly when the access to care is hours away instead of just lickety-split. They're just right there.
Yeah, you know, I hear lawmakers and experts in the public health field talk a lot about how technology may help rural health communities when it comes to health care. Is there any sort of training with that the nurses will be receiving online?
Yes, we do. We have a large telehealth component that's built into it. We use a product called Zoom. I'm not advertising for it, okay, where we can interconnect and the students practice at a distance. And you can actually interview someone and find out a pretty fair amount about their health.
So that's like a online messaging, video conferencing.
Video conferencing. It's much like FaceTime, I suppose, or Skype is the other one.
Yes.
Kind of similar to that. So the country's kind of getting that way to get access to truly remote areas where it's difficult. I don't know that we'll ever get away from the human touch, that the face-to-face contact and seeing someone in person. But at least this is a lot closer. You can say like, hey, if they're a nurse practitioner, can you look at this here and tell me, do I need to come in or am I okay? So as just maybe one example.
I see. Now, We've heard for years the need for healthcare practitioners in rural areas, especially here in our border region that we live in. How is WNMU going to meet these challenges with this program?
Well, one of what we're hoping to do is to get them used to the idea of coming to school in New Mexico, Western New Mexico. It is completely online, and there's a body of research that shows that students who do their studies in an area, and residencies in particular for physicians and for advanced practice nursing, they tend to stay where they were. And so we're trying to educate the students, also to prepare them to work. It's a different set of challenges in a rural area as compared to remote. And I would take up the rest of 2 hours talking about the specifics of that without going into it too much. The shortage exists pretty much nationwide, but is particularly acute in New Mexico. The last couple of years, I know we are losing people. The population is decreasing. A lot of people come and they will get education and leave, which is problematic in and of itself. So our students reflect that as well, is my point. They come, they get an education, and they want to go somewhere glitzy on the Vegas Strip or something, where that's very different from our rural setting, which is a lot quieter. Some of us like that it's a lot quieter. But the younger people, which most nurses coming out of school are 2021, there is a segment of the population that is coming back in and retraining, but still the majority are still younger, and they seek out other areas than rural New Mexico.
So is this program going to be just available for people living in New Mexico, or can people living outside of New Mexico take part in
No,
this
sir,
program?
we would welcome anyone. Many of the problems that New Mexico experiences are not indigenous to New Mexico. Montana, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, there are a lot of rural areas facing very similar challenges. In spite of Texas, with the huge population centers they have, there are large expanses of area where people are medically underserved as well, just because the state's so huge, because of the distances involved.
I'm sure you have a grasp of this next issue. Being an associate dean in the program, how long do nursing students who graduate end up, taking this career path? Is there a dramatic turnover in nursing? Do people last in this field?
Yes, we have a double-edged sword we're kind of fighting against here. You're spot on correct with the first observation that the latest research I'm aware of, somewhere 40 to 50% of all nurses who graduate with their first nursing degree and go to work in a hospital will leave the hospital within 2 years. They seek out other settings. It is very demanding work, and it's not what it looks like on television, okay? And so that's a challenge, and a lot of people decide, I don't know if I want to do this.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people may be attracted to the healthcare industry, nursing, because, they're almost guaranteed a job practically upon completion with their education and certification. And also the pay is fairly good.
Yes.
For New Mexico, it's definitely above the median salary. So I'd like to hear, what are those things that people encounter while they're in the field that really drives them out?
Several things. It depends. Probably, I know a significant amount of turnover exists because of the 12-hour shifts that we are now expecting nurses to work 12 hours at a time. So you only have two, one replaces the other. It used to be 3 with 8s, So it's easier to have a child or, go into work at 7 o'clock, get off at 3, pick up your kids and go home. If you go to work at 7 a.m., you don't get out till 7 p.m. at the earliest possible time. So it's long stretches of work on your feet, which can be tiring. You get a little older, and it can kind of mess with your social life that way. Opposite of that is if you work the night shift overnight till the next day. It's a benefit to the institution because you have fewer handoffs. We find a lot of errors within nursing made during the handoff, changing. Nurses are assigned responsibility for a patient. Okay, when you're assigned a responsibility for a patient, you're mine. I cannot leave until my replacement comes in. It's a law. I can't abandon you, so I have to stay. If you're coming in late to replace me, I stay until you're gone. And it's a tremendous responsibility, and kind of coupled with that, you can't just go and have your teeth filled or your dentist appointment or hair appointment or whatever else you need to do. During that 12 hours, you walk in the door, you're there for a 12-hour time frame until you leave. And some people find that more challenging. And this is true of the acute care hospital setting I'm speaking. This is not really true of doctor's office, and nurses work in lots of places. So, but the bulk, where we really have the greatest need at this point, is in the hospital at the bedside, and that's also fueled by one other thing I want to mention here, is that we're getting old as a population. The boomers are retiring, and so there's this huge influx of people needing service, and there's not enough people to keep up with that. It presents a challenge.
So if you're an RN, why would you want to pursue a master's degree in this program? What are the benefits, and specifically with this program?
Well, the easiest way I know to sum this up is we know better and we do better. So it's higher education, and I'm easily a proponent for more education. It's always a good thing. There's a lot of research shown that the higher the degree of education the nurse has, the better outcomes there are. And that's from associate's degree to bachelor's degree to master's degree. Anyone who wishes to enhance their career and go further beyond just the bedside nurse, basic care, and basic working in a physician's office, you need the master's, and now it's reaching the doctoral level pretty much. Most nursing faculty, it's very much desired that they have the doctorate, and there are a few masters prepared out there, so if you want to go that line. Benefits to this program, in particular, it is set up so that the majority of the requirements to become an advanced healthcare practitioner, I should have written this one down, I'm sorry. There's a national certification you can get that certifies you to work in public health as a nurse. The name has changed several times and I lose track, guys, sorry about that. So they would be prepared, and that will elevate their career. They make more money and they can work independently. The other thing this degree does is we have a postmaster's certificate for family nurse practitioner that takes 3 more semesters at the end, and it piggybacks right onto it, and again focuses on rural and community frontier health.
So what about the instructors that will be taking part in this fully online program? Are they all at WNMU? And how will people be able to access their instructors if they have, questions or regarding this? Is it like your typical online learning environment?
It's a little more immersed than your typical online environment. The location of the instructors will probably 95 to 100% will be on campus at Western. However, sometimes we do need to hire adjuncts. Nursing faculty, we have some of the similar issues with nurses as we're getting old and we retire, and that becomes problematic at times. And getting someone to teach is not such an easy thing to do. But for the student, we use the Canvas learning management system, which NMSU and a lot of other schools use as well. And through it's a very rich environment, offers all kinds of video interactive discussions, submit assignments, receive assignments. We've had some asynchronous conversations where the individuals have to speak their perspective or on a discussion topic and upload that, and then they speak to the other one and record that. So it's a little more engaging than just previously, I think it was rather dry, just all text based. We do also, the university has purchased a license to use Zoom, and many of the instructors hold sessions with groups of students, or office hours can be held one-on-one, no matter where the student is. I have worked with a doctoral student who is in a Navy base in Japan. Okay, and it's amazing what we can do with technology. It's like they're sitting right there. So there's a certain personal touch that comes along with it. It's not all just canned online, but everything is delivered through that venue, so you don't have to attend class if it were at set times, unless we set up a Zoom session that students request.
You've brought up a couple times in this interview that there's going to be a large turnover with baby boomers retiring. Is this something that the nursing community and the health community is really concerned about right now?
Oh, absolutely. If you are a nurse working, there's just always plenty more patients coming in. I don't know how to say that. And life is such that people get sick, people have unexpected things happen. You get a flat tire, whatever, okay? And so if I'm at work, and again with that 12-hour shift, I cannot leave, and you had a flat coming in and you're 4 hours late, I get to stay and work 16 hours, and there's not someone I can usually just pick up the phone and say, hey, can you come in for just 4 hours? That's a rarity. So it really stretches staff thin, and a lot of states are having some lively discussions about nurse-to-patient ratios. How many people can one nurse be expected to take care of? This is another kind of a twist with today's technology, is that the people in hospitals are sicker. I don't know if you've seen people go home much quicker than they used to. Having a baby used to be like a week, and now it's almost drive-by. I laugh sometimes, but it's the next day. Not altogether bad, because we have a bunch of sick people in one place in the hospital, but the intensity of care is a lot more when you have 5 very sick people instead of 1 that's kind of sick and 3 that are kind of waiting till someone can pick them up.
We just have about 30 seconds left, but how can folks find out more information about this program?
Everything you need is online, WNMU.edu, and the School of Nursing. All of our programs have contact information, phone numbers, emails. We would love to hear from anyone interested.
All right, Dr. Jon Scarbrough, thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about this program. And we want to thank you for joining us on another episode of In Focus. I'm Anthony Moreno.
New Mexico State University recently held a symposium bringing together indigenous leaders who are fighting to protect water resources. As Mallory Falk reports, these water protectors shared stories about their work on the front lines.
It's a warm November afternoon. Spray can artists gather on the corner of University and Solano to work on a mural promoting the importance of water.
And in this piece depicts the kind of the cycle of water, from the clouds to the mountains to the streams.
Saba is a local artist. He's Navajo and Jemez Pueblo from northern New Mexico. He calls his art form aerosol.
We use aerosol paint for our medium, and also we use arrows in our letter structures. We use arrows to hunt, we use arrows to defend ourselves. So aerosol art is what we call it.
Saba says the mural shows how humans both depend on and damage water sources. A child swims in a clear pool of water, which then gets trapped behind a dam. It later spews out of a pipe, and it's turned electric, contaminated green. There's a big billboard that says "Water is life" in the distinct Coca-Cola font.
Water is life has become a movement, but there's a lot of people that seem to be kind of marketing it, and making money off it, and maybe not helping out the movement. So that's what the billboard in the rainforest represents.
Guadalupe Vargas came from Amarillo to help out with the mural.
I mean, people travel to North Dakota to go fight, and 7 hours is nothing to me to come here and do my part.
He's referring to the water protectors who traveled to the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation to protest the Dakota Access Pipeline, which they claimed would destroy the reservation's clean drinking supply and damage sacred sites. Vargas sees this mural as an extension of that work. He hopes it wakes people up and changes how they think about water.
We're going to pollute it or waste it, we're going to die. So
Vargas and Saba aren't creating this mural in a vacuum. They're here for an Indigenous Water Protectors Symposium hosted by New Mexico State University. The 2-day event brings together water protectors from across the U.S. and from Guatemala to share stories and examples of their work. There's a water ceremony, panel discussion, and an evening celebration featuring 3-time Native American Music Award winner Artson. The symposium is held in November to celebrate Native American Heritage Month. Maria Claudia Montesinos is with the Frontera Water Protection Alliance in El Paso. She says she's Quechua from the southern Andes of Peru. She was born and raised in the U.S.
Raised biculturally and with a really deep and strong connection to my ancestral homeland.
Like Guadalupe Vargas, Montesinos hopes to, as she puts it, shake people's consciousness.
We are so asleep in so many ways, and we are so comfortable, and we haven't run out of water yet. The tap still turns on.
But she says there are many threats to local water sources. Right now, she's most concerned about a method of oil and gas extraction.
The fracking that is coming, that is knocking on our door, that subterranean extraction that is extremely violent, extremely dangerous, and toxic to our water.
She says fracking has taken off in other parts of Texas, and she fears it's coming to this corner of the state. Kim Smith also worries about extractive industries. She's from the Diné Nation and lives in New Mexico.
Our tribe is heavily dependent on coal. We have coal-fired power plants, we have coal mines. Our tribe is heavily invested in these industries, and basically the work that we're trying to do is to empower our communities to understand what coal brings.
Especially the health impacts. She says she's working to create health impact studies to show both the community and state legislature the harm these industries are causing. Smith directs the Just Transition campaign for new energy and founded an online magazine called Indigenous Goddess Gang. She wants to see a transition to renewable energy.
As Indigenous people, we live sustainably. Some may call it permaculture now. That's like the sexy term for it. But really, it's just how Indigenous people have been living for time immemorial.
She says if more people lived this way, creating their own heat and hauling water, they would better appreciate natural resources and only use what they need. Smith says protecting water isn't just an Indigenous issue, it's a human issue. Everyone depends on the resource. For KRWG Public Media, I'm Mallory Falk.
That's our time for now. Join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's Morning Edition 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, followed by Here and Now, noon to 2, and All Things Considered, 4 to 7. KRWG News is always online at krwg.org, and we'd love to hear from you. Email us with your story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. For all of us at KRWG News, I'm Fred Martino. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.